get this electronically, but I got about 10 copies. But we have the sort of the nice benefit of having only about 10 years of institutional memory here at the Student Union, but this sort of mentality, this idea has actually been around for about 10 years at least. And the Student Union at the time developed a policy that we use as sort of position papers essentially against any kind of privatization of our residences. Now those for two main reasons, and the first one being mostly as Melanie, sorry, touched on was the public-private partnership. Now, what we have noticed as students is that whenever Trent or anyone in the university sector engages with the private sector on these partnerships, the students we're usually the ones that end up paying more. We see it with our food service, we see it with our bookstore. It's easier for the university because they don't have to do anything. They sit back and collect royalty checks. Meanwhile, we're paying for the company's profit margin, essentially. So these deals are not good for us, and that's what this does. The second issue is Trent was founded, for those of you that are in the community, we're founded on a collegial system. Oxford, U of T, that sort of system, which puts student housing, faculty offices, classrooms, common spaces, places for people to get together into the same building where a community can grow. This is not that. This is simply a factory, as the word was put out, to house who knows in the future. Right? It's not about building community. It's not what we want. So what we did was we took this policy, which, as I said, has been around for 10 years, and we put that out to our membership, which we're about 6,000 students now. And we put that out in March 2008, and just said simply, do you want a privatized residence on campus? And about 1,200 students voted. 900 or so said absolutely not. So we knew that this policy that was about 7 or 8 years old was still true to this day, and that's what we're still fighting for. Okay? Privatization isn't good for us, and this has nothing to do with community building. So those are our two main issues. Anyway.
Thank you.
Sheldon, one question. I think it was O'Leary or something. They questioned the vote.
Oh, yeah.
They questioned the vote. Do we need to...
Well, I remember, actually it was funny because...
They really put that down as if they didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, and actually one of the members of the Board of Governors was the alumni representative. He said, students will vote with their friends, essentially. So whatever the tide brings, sort of smearing any kind of democratic process, essentially. Implying that we're not intelligent enough to make our own decisions.
Well, then that's the problem with not being a good neighbor or a good university, because the students who are the customers say you guys vote, say we don't want that, and they say
and then they smear, yeah.
Say no, they didn't vote. Yeah. There was hardly anybody there. So any way we can legitimize that vote? Or
yeah, and it's just going back to the finance. I don't want to speak too much here, but I think the deal that was leaked anyway was the university is getting, I think it was 1.7 million up front for this, which that's not even going to cover our pension deficits for this year alone. But Trent's not going to see another penny for another 20 years.
That's right.
1.7 up front, and we'll see in 20 years. It does nothing.
It may not even be a need in 20 years.
Well, it may not even be there.
The logic is that they're closing residents right now, and they're told this because of the need for residents. So if you have a need for residents, why would you close residents?
Absolutely.
So that you can't suck and blow at the same time. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and some of you might notice last year, Trent actually started leasing sections of the McDonald Street housing complex. There's 20 some odd rooms out of there, and it's.
And if you're a graduate student, do you want to be way out there, take a bus, or do you want to live downtown?
Well, look, you just saw in the paper, Peterborough Transit just cut their budget, $300,000 or so. No more service at 6 p.m. You're going to have 300 bodies here.
And on Saturday night, the buses stop at 6:30.
And we're students. We like the pubs,
And they have no access to leave or get home again, unless they're driving with their friends.
And then walk through if you're a student over there, and if you were a student on campus and you had a problem with another student or some bullying or something what's your course of getting that handled now, and what would be if you were over there?
Well, you're on campus in terms of just space. You're a pretty quick walk from, if you're on residence right now, you're most likely a first year. There's a whole donning system, a whole support system built in the buildings themselves
So you
through
had an issue
RAs.
with another
No, in here, there's actually zero support, especially, and that's one of the concerns. Now that we know that they're offering this to first-year students, there's absolutely zero support.
Right.
Live-in support, I should say.
If you had an issue with another resident, you're on your own.
And
Oh, yeah.
therefore, it
You-
doesn't
you're-
fit the zoning.
That needs to be brought up.
Is that-
No, and actually, our executive, we met with the mayor on Monday, and, our first issue was, this isn't campus security. These are 300 new units that Peterborough Police, ambulance, is gonna have to get up here.
It's a rooming house,
It's, yeah.
boarding house, that's all.
What would it take to conduct another student vote? Because
Oh, we
2008
can do it again in this March, It's not, it's not a hard thing to do.
No, but when all the students are there, I think I understood that not all of the students were present either at the time. that-
Well, no, not everybody votes in these referendums,
No, they don't all
1,200
vote,
students
but-
is probably on our good year, and that was roughly 20% of the membership at the
Right.
time.
Which was good.
But it's still,
And
that's the way everything works.
Yeah.
That's the way I'll put it.
So will you be able to announce somehow to as many students as possible to come out next week to Lady Eaton at 7 o'clock
Yeah.
next Wednesday?
Absolutely.
Like if students would come along and say.
Is it Wednesday or Tuesday is the town hall?
It's Wednesday.
I think it's Wednesday. I think it's the 26th.
Sheldon, do you guys have a blog going on this? Or
We use every possible
Yes, I think-
new form of social media we have
Facebook?
to get it out there. Personal emails.
That's what we need.
That sort of
Be
thing.
body. The only way we're going to beat this is political,
Yeah.
because Trent's playing some little games we go behind.
Well, and this is the funny thing, this has been around for 10 years. There's no reason why we can't keep going for another 10 years. Eventually, they're going to give up, because you guys aren't moving. You're not giving up. So they're going to have to,
Sorry, have you done any survey amongst the student body, asking if they have a choice of where they want to live, aside from, say, first year? Where do they choose within the city?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a whole, we have our own issue with Peterborough housing in terms of what's available to students. Most first-year students, roughly 80% of our first-year students do live on our existing residences by choice. Many of them want to. Most of our mature students, transfer students, they've already sort of gone through that residence experience, or they're 25 years old, 30 years old, or older, so they choose to live downtown. So we're never going to get everybody in residence, but as we talked about amenities earlier, if you're targeting, older folks, graduate students, that sort of thing, there's really nothing up here. They're going to rely on the transit system more or less, which also the city is cutting. It's, somebody over here said the triangle game. It's really interesting to see that relationship between, who's benefiting from this, and the tax dollars, it's the
But
shell
Trent
game.
University's selling it on the idea that they're doing it for the students.
No,
And the
no.
students don't want it. That's
No,
the,
they like, and I say this at
That's
the
the
beginning.
whole
Their whole, what they try to say to us is that Trent having a balanced budget is good for everybody. It's good for students, in a way, yes, but at the same time, this is not how we want to go about it. And I made the argument to them from the beginning. They put so much effort into this new athletics complex that the city was on board with in terms of a philanthropic model. Parceling off sections of it to get different donors. Why can we not do that for residents closer to where our other residents
and
are?
then
Right.
we would support it. And then we would all
Then we
support it.
support it.
Oh, yeah, that's what, yeah. And alumni would support it as
Absolutely.
well.
I think if they need money, there'd be better ways and more money to come, being a better neighbor to us. Trent needs to be a better neighbor and a better,
It's interesting, in the paper the other night when Dr. Franklin had his article about the next 4 years for Trent, he said the first thing that they were after was financial stability.
Yeah, that's
And
number one.
the second
Number
thing
one.
was strengthening community engagement. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, again, how
Gotta
they position
engage
it,
now.
financial stability to them for the next 4 years will come before community stability or engagement or anything else. Yeah, that's their mindset.
But if you went the other way around and asked the community to help them to get more housing on site, and I know for a fact that there were 2 developers at least who tried to set in a plan for development at Trent on different sites. They did not choose that site. There were a lot of reasons why they didn't want that site, but they selected other sites,
Right.
and Trent pushed them aside. And they were local developers. This is a guy from London So even that, if we would have a local developer doing it on the East Bank, I think that would lend a lot of support to the idea, and it would help with funding. Here, a London developer who's related in some way to O'Leary, who doesn't live in the community, would probably be interesting to find out.
No, it's, I always say we're in the business of, relationship building, and that's, certainly what Trent should be. And those are exactly what our arguments are, If you build the relationships, you've got the support. We know for a fact, the province does not fund residences. They just don't. And the reason they give that, our taxpayers, yourselves, are okay with paying for computer labs, science labs, libraries, but taxpayers don't want to pay for residences. So we, two-sided door, we need you also to, talk to Jeff Leal, that sort of thing, and say, look, you're not funding residences, and now look what we've got.
Yeah.
We've got a monster.
Look what's happened.
You said you visited the mayor recently.
Yeah, Monday.
What was his reaction to your presentation?
We got a strong sense that he's not in favor of this. The mayor, he used to be on the Trent Board of Governors before they sort of pushed him out for asking too many questions, I guess. We definitely got the sense that he's not in favor of this. And we've always had the sense that even our president, Stephen Franklin, hasn't been in support of this, but I think he's been gagged, essentially, in the last year from the board. Someone's alluded to maybe RDC's actually threatened him with a lawsuit if he plans to back out of this. So there are some, obviously we don't have proof for any of these things, but they're nice to talk about.
It would be nice if all the cards were on the table.
Wouldn't it, though? Yeah. And when you're playing with Trent administration, you'll never get all the cards, ever.
What would be wrong with a parking lot, putting this development on it?
Oh, there's half a dozen locations where we could do this and input the community infrastructure in there. But for whatever reason, this is what's best for Trent. It's best for the bean counters. I'm sorry if there's any accountants in here.
And there's a
This is what Trent likes to do. They just want to sit back and collect the check, no work involved. And it means relationships. It means students pay more. It means giving up some of the values that we've been founded on for the last 40 years.
There you go.
That's what they'd rather do. And yes, I heard it in the back too. Terrible negotiators, terrible business people, just awful. And you guess who pays for it? That's us.
That's wrong.
It is wrong.
No, they're good business people.
Well, yeah.
You've been hustled.
Yeah.
I live outside the neighborhood, and I'm looking at buying into this neighborhood. Sorry, I'm David McCumber. And what I see here is Little Lake, Fleming, Trent. I've been here about 10 years. And maybe the hospital. Those are the hot button items. And council has basically walked through this. You just have to look at this. This is a low-density neighborhood. Look at the size of those properties. Look at the taxes that are paid there. And they put high-density living right in front of your face. That is so wrong-minded. Trent, a lousy neighbor.
That's absolutely.
All the land